How's the world doing out there?
Pardon me? Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that. Easy enough.
The link should be in the calendar invite. Sorry to hear about your truck, Randy. That's awful.
Yeah. You do, but thank God it was the one time that all the doors were locked. And I have the keys.
Oh,
Perfect. That's the first thing I thought of, because I remember you telling me what happened here, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Okay, we're live. If you would have had the floaty guy in there, I think you would have been a lot easier to find your truck.
Yeah, was he in the back of the truck? I hope not. You dancing man?
No,
different truck.
It was on the arena.
yeah.
Where is the mayor?
We are live.
Tyler, I think you should put your camera on.
Gary, you can put your camera on so everyone can see your beautiful face.
And we're speaking.
Yeah, turn off the speakers, please. Turn off the microphones. That's muted.
It beats all the feedback to wake you up in the morning.
That's funny. I guess that's just the way I have to do it.
We're live.
We're live.
Sorry, I'm late. Call the meeting to order. I want to acknowledge that we are, the Smoky Valley in which we learn, work, and organize is the ancestral traditional and unceded territory of the Smoky people and some of the Upper Smoky Indian Band. I have one thing to adopt or add to the agenda under new business, and we'll just call it store vacant buildings. And with that, can we adopt the agenda as amended?
So, Mr. Mayor.
Coyne, Keller, second. All in favor? Carried, thank you. We will go down to staff reports, temporary housing update, and Alan, our building inspector, is here to give us a quick rundown on what's happening.
Yeah, I've been asked to do a synopsis of the project. So starting in August the 5th, 22, my first contact from the Black Diamond Group was Mike Bremner, and they were proposing to use temporary housing units on the Stan Thompson site. Good?
Very good.
All right. So August 9th, I responded with a list of requirements. So there was a list of some items, certification or standard or engineered equal for the manufactured dwelling units, floor plans for the units, 5 fire separation details, and the changes that they were proposing for accessibility, deck construction details, and installation requirements for the fire suppression system. So September 14th, advised there was permit requirements for placing pre-manufactured or factory-built homes in Princeton, and there's also BC code requirements for the installation of units. So in response to the list, I did get a response from Altifab, they're the manufacturers of those units, and that they were forthcoming with documentation, floor plans, same. They had contacted a fire suppression company in BC to do the changes there. And the other items, they responded as well. So that brings us, that went through to September into October. There was sort of more back and forth, but they never seemed to be able to really provide the documentation they needed for the permit application process. October to December, the dwellings started to arrive on site. I received the design drawings and letters of assurance for the fire suppression system at the end of October. November, they started constructing decks on site without plans or permits. That resulted in some compliance issue. I did stop in and talk to them. And the level of nonconformity required a registered professional, Christina Willerton, came on board to review that part of the project and create some drawings, which she did. January 25th, fire suppression system was complete and the Schedule C final document was provided. January 26th, the keys for the buildings were dropped off to community services, and the Black Diamond construction team left town. So I reached out to them with an email saying that, you know, they weren't, in our minds, they weren't complete yet, that there was still some things that needed to be done, including the list of items and the documentation that they were going to provide since September. I did receive an email from Adam Romagnoli from BC Housing, and he'd indicated a code analysis report was coming with someone that they'd got, or that they'd acquired, and they'd be providing a report, or a code analysis report for all the construction that had occurred on that site for the project, which I'm relieved for. But the concerns are still there until that all happens. I think without having been on site to review it at any depth, I think there's gonna be a lot of repairs that need to be done just for the age of the units. They were built in 2007. They're called relocatable industrial accommodations for the oil fields in Alberta. So part of the struggle was, of course, they don't comply to anything in BC when it comes to codes. So that's where we are now. So we're relying on the BC Housing Code analysis to bring the project hopefully forward to completion. There's still some things on site that'll have to be addressed. I think there's gonna be pavement put into that site. There's curb and sidewalk in there now. But I think there's some items there. Jared could probably speak to that. We've been in discussion over that as well. But that's sort of the synopsis of where we are today for that project. There's been communication going back and forth. So I've been keeping track of what there is, but I haven't been able to issue a permit for it yet. So hopefully that'll change.
Perfect, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Are the things that are holding it up fairly substantial in terms of time required to get them done, or I'm understanding that we're kind of anxiously waiting for this to be open? Am I correct there?
Yeah, no, I would think so. Really, it's in BC Housing's hand right now because we haven't seen the person doing the code analysis for those units on site yet, not that I'm aware of. So once they're on site and actually do the study or go through all those units, because basically we're looking for a registered professional's acceptance of the design or a list of repairs to make them habitable.
And more of those are requirements required by them than us?
Just the code.
Well, it's the
I
BC.
know we work
it's-
together.
It's the BC code, so basically we're looking, it's called an alternative solution because the units themselves, right from construction onward, don't meet the BC code because they weren't built under our code, or our provincial code. So we're looking for an analysis to make it comply, so.
So good ones to bring in.
while, can you reach out to your contact and see what's the hold up on them getting that done?
I have done that. I have reached out to them already and they're aware of it. And it's just as Alan said, they're waiting on this professional to kind of give some advice on it, so.
Yeah, hopefully once that's done, you know, we can move forward there. But I think Black Diamond will be back to do the repairs before they can move in. I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure what the timelines are for that because they're not really in our control.
Hope it was someone else that ordered them.
The contract with BC Housing, so the responsibilities on that.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have anything with Alan? Thanks, Alan, I appreciate it.
Okay.
It clears up some of the misconceptions that are floating around right now as to what's actually happening, so thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We'll move on to the poverty reduction program funding, Carrie can speak to this.
Yeah, so UBCM is offering a grant right now for poverty reduction assessment and planning strategy. It's an offset to most people's OCP, and we're in the midst of almost having that completed. So some of the stuff that are part of the poverty reduction, there's 6 priorities, and most communities pick 1 or 2 priorities. So I'll just let you know what they are and sort of what staff is recommending. So more affordable housing for more people is one of the priorities, supporting families, children, and youth, expanding access to education and training, more opportunities, more jobs, improving income supports, and investing in social inclusion. So for this particular grant, which I'm hoping to have council support of, we're looking at more affordable housing for more people and supporting families, children, and youth. And I thought I would bring it to a committee of the whole so that you were aware of this before I bring it to council for a resolution to move forward with the grant funding. I've also included in the package a copy of Merit's report so that you can see a report before taking it to council.
Comments? Questions?
How much does the grant being offered?
25,000. It probably will cost us close to 50. It's very much similar to the age-friendly assessment and planning. I've talked to the director of finance to ensure that I have money left over in the OCP this year so that we could contribute to it.
Anybody else?
Is there some specifics you could go over in terms of what?
So for more affordable housing for more people, you can look at different designates in the OCP, then that would move into your zoning. You can put some information in your OCP to support affordable housing and different tools to use. For supporting families and children, I was just looking at what Merit had put in here, and supports for children and family might be daycare services, let's move this out of the way, mental health and addiction services, food security, access to health care, access to services, safe, affordable transportation, access to justice. So those are just some of the items that they've put into their report or their strategic plan.
Could that be tied into the, whatever plans for resiliency center?
Yeah, it would strengthen our position on that concept. So when Carrie sent out the UBCM thing, I looked at it and then I saw the poverty reduction grant. So I sent it back to Carrie and I said, can we look into this? So Carrie's been looking into it, and then the 2 that jumped out right away, the main one was the housing one, because we're in this housing crunch now. We don't, we've lost affordable housing. The affordable housing we have for families right now is limited, it's aged. So when Carrie brought the list back, I said, well, we gotta look at the housing one, because now's the time to do it. We're gonna be looking at our zoning, we're redoing our OCP. This is an addition to the OCP, it bolsters it. But anything that we put into this, and it's a phased approach too. There was an application, there was a process last year, I didn't see that unfortunately. And then, once we do this part, then there's another section of the grant that you can apply for next year for actioning those things that are identified. So it's not just a report that we would just do and hopefully just stick on that shelf like, half the reports that are out there. This one, there's supposed to be follow-up funding in the future to actually try to enact on it. And if we do the housing one, especially the housing one, then our position with BC Housing becomes stronger when we're advocating for more affordable housing, because we don't just have our housing needs study, which is now out of date because we've done a new census. We now will have this document that says we are in the need of affordable housing as well. And it pushes forward that whole argument that we've had and just strengthens our position for more funding down the road.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Carrie. We'll jump down to new business, and then we will go into the camera for our other meeting. So the other one is, I just want the feeling of council. It was brought up at the last, it was brought up during the public hearing the other day that there's empty storefronts in town. So after talking to CAO, we asked, are there really as many empty storefronts as we've said? And there are. The sad part is most of the storefronts that are empty, if not all of them, are what you could call absentee landlords. They're not people within the community that live here and own them. They're from somewhere else and they're sitting empty. And it appears that some of them aren't being repaired and being looked after properly either. And this has been an ongoing thing for a number of years. Before we were elected, we had a number of empty storefronts. Most of them were the same storefronts that are empty now. And again, they were at that time absentee landlords. What many municipalities, including Penticton, West Bank, Chilliwack, the list goes on and on and on, they have in their bylaw fees that allow them to, you have to license or have a license for an empty storefront. And you have to have the building inspected to make sure it's safe. You have to have a license, and then there's requirements if you're going to keep your storefront empty. We were looking at West Banks yesterday, or West Kelowna, sorry. West Kelowna yesterday, and theirs is a standalone bylaw that says you either demo it or you have to have this license in place, and you pay a fee. You have to do regular 90-day inspections. It ensures that the building is either going to be maintained while it's vacant or torn down if it's no longer repairable, or you're going to find a reason to rent it out. And I think that's something that I'd like direction from council to have some further investigation into, whether we want to do something like this. Right now, a lot of the buildings that are in this situation, one of them went up for tax sale. Actually, two of them. The one's now, I think, paid up. There's another one that's, hasn't had anybody in it for a number of years, and we don't know what the condition of it is in. And, it's becoming a epidemic almost, where nobody's investing into the properties, and they will become derelict at some point. Comments? Yes.
Yeah, if this is an incentive to get people into some of these buildings, or at least get the owners to do something to pretty them up or keep them up to date, I think it's well worth exploring.
It's and I think it will be. I mean, it's quite expensive to keep your building vacant.
Yeah.
And be a proper, building owner. When during COVID, I was working at a retail location in town. We looked at, if this is gonna be a long-term thing, how do we close up the business and whatnot. And the insurance alone was gonna cost us more than to have the lights on and somebody in the building selling whatever we could sell. So it was cheaper for us to have the building operational than empty with the proper insurance in place. And my fear right now is a lot of those buildings don't have the proper insurance on them, and because it is costly.
I guess, there is probably some that are trying to rent out, I'm guessing, there's probably a few, right?
Yeah, but
And then what
there's
happens with them?
mechanisms in place to, like, some of these bylaws have mechanisms in place, like if you're renovating them and you're doing the work, then you don't have to have it, because you're showing that you're actually trying to invest in your property. Whereas, let's take a building on the far end of Bridge Street that has been empty since since at least 10 years,
More.
maybe longer.
Mm.
And we haven't seen any signs of anything happening in that building, right? So, we know that it was in rough condition prior to it being shut down, and now it's still sitting empty, and whatnot. I believe the building may have just changed hands, but, so that might change, but, I think we need an incentive to get people to either fill it or sell it, and move on, and get somebody else who wants to open a business.
Totally agree.
Yep.
I'm looking at it, I guess, from a different perspective in terms of the person that is owning that. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not sure if you own a building like that, why you wouldn't be in dire straits of having it occupied and a business in there. I guess my question would be to the ADO, how do you view this?
Turn your camera. There you go, you're on.
Don't turn your mic on.
I don't need your mic on.
All right, if that's what you think.
Just need your camera, that's all.
I think that's all. Sorry.
Speakers on Zoom.
We'll figure this out.
There we go. I think it's definitely a problem in the town, and I've been saying this for a while, there should be some penalties, in my opinion, against vacant landlords, and we have this problem with landlords that are out of town that this is an investment for them probably, and they don't care what the town looks like. They're in Vancouver or wherever they might be, and they've got this property here that's sitting there, and it makes no difference to them if they rent it or not. They're probably using it as a write-off somewhere, and they're not motivated to do anything to them. And I think it's a big issue that we're here. We had a good, initially when you guys came in, I think we had full vacancy or pretty close to it. And then obviously circumstances of what they were, with COVID, we had places that didn't survive, and that was to be expected because it was extremely hard on small businesses, everybody knows. But now we're coming out of that, and the town itself and this council's putting a lot of effort into beautification and making the town look good. And part of the, our marketing packages with tourism is to bring people in here. We're seeing our tourism numbers go up, and then we have vacant storefronts in our downtown. It's got such a ripple effect with everything we do to try to attract other businesses here as well. I've recently spoke with some hotel companies that do attractions for hotels. One of the first thing is, what's the shopping like? Well, we're very minimal. I mean, the reality is we don't have a lot of options, and it's a big thing for hotel attraction or any company like that. They want to have a building where people can walk to, and there's things for them to do, whether that's dining or shopping or even just exploring the town. And the vacant storefront situation is definitely an issue. And especially on our main street, we have limited occupancy, but we also have limited spaces. So to get these landlords to finally, open up and be motivated to rent, maybe their rents are a little high considering where we're at. Maybe they can offer some packages to get those going, and I think if they're sufficiently incentivized, whether that's punitive or however we motivate them, I think overall it'll be a benefit to the town. And it'll be a big benefit. Actually, I can see it with a lot of things.
I guess what has always amazed me is the low number of people who have taken advantage of our you know, 5,000, spend 10,000 and 5,000 would be paid by the town, that there hasn't been a lot more that have taken advantage of that. I think if you were able to throw that in with what you're proposing here in terms of, guys, fix things up, you wanna spend 10,000 or whatever, or a certain amount of money, we'll back that up to a, you know, maximum of 5,000. It would make it a little more palatable in my mind in terms of the approach that you have to go after these people. And maybe the fact that you're enhancing your building is going to attract some potential business as a result of it. Instead of looking at an old dilapidated building and thinking your business would work there, big difference if it was a kind of attractive place that you can put your business into, sort of.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there'd be some economic development strategies that we could employ to help them as well. You know, we could list properties that are available for rent. You know, we could do that through our ECDEV website, just the same way we list properties that are for sale, you know, in our industrial park. So that's another, you know, I know it's kind of a carrot and stick approach to it, but if the incentives, as you said, and then maybe the postings, because we do get people that are, you know, looking for properties, but it's very hard to find a listing or to get a contact for any of the people that are even own these buildings to try and connect them for a rental. And if they're dilapidated, I mean, there's no real motivation to, you're not gonna open a new business in a rundown old building and then deal with that, because from what I've talked to, a lot of people here the landlords haven't even offered leasehold improvements on, you know, on upgrades and things like that. I've heard that from a number of people that have tried to look at properties here, and, you know, that's a pretty common thing. If you have an older building, you offer leasehold improvements for a few months grace on rent in order to offset the improvements that are getting done. And we have a great incentive program for the improvements. So we're presenting a solution to the problem, and we're doing, I think, everything that a municipality can do, and this is another step in that direction. And at some point, the owners of these properties need to step up and do their part, because we can only create an environment that's conducive to attracting businesses here. And I think we're doing that in every way possible. You know, and this is the next step.
And I think that's shown, I mean, the fact that we have developers looking at building with new commercial space. And I know there was some criticism during that public hearing that, you know, we're going to allow new public or commercial space when we have vacant public space, but like, we don't have control over what people do or do not do with their, you know, if you wanna keep your building empty, that's up to you. There's nothing we can do to force you to actually do anything, but we can make sure we can mitigate it. But the fact that we have developers looking at actually opening up space, I think shows that there's an appetite here for, you know, commercial development as well. I talked to a property owner yesterday who just purchased a commercial property in town. They looked at a couple spots in town and they were appalled at the condition of the buildings that they were looking at. And the buildings they looked at were all from people who didn't live there. And the cost of the building versus how much investment they were gonna have to put in to bring it up to where it needs to be for a viable retail outlet was not there. So they bought a building that had improvements done to it, and they were happy to pay the price on it. So, you know, I think it's another strategy. We have been putting out incentives. I think we've done a lot. I'm like you, Councillor, that I'm amazed that more people haven't taken advantage of our storefront program. You know, we started small, and we've ended up keeping it small because we just haven't gotten a buy-in, which is sad in a way that it's not taking off the way it should. I mean, it's free money to increase your property value.
The look of the ones that did take advantage of it.
Oh, everybody loves them.
Amazing difference, yeah.
So if you guys are all in agreement, then I'll continue to work with staff and options and see what other communities are doing.
Yeah, please do, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we go down to a motion to close. Thank you. Councilor Willis, Councilor Elliott, all in favor, carried, and just so everyone knows, it's to close for 90.1D, the security of property in the municipality, and 90.1K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at the preliminary stages and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality if they were held in public. That's for your sake.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, it's been a
All in
pleasure.
favor?
And I'm honestly not just gonna walk outside the door and sit in that chair. You don't have to close the door, I'm actually leaving.
No, we do actually have to legally close the door.
Oh.